All right, good morning, everyone. We're going to call this meeting of the Sacramento Metropolitan Air Quality Management District to order here on January 23rd at 9:05 a.m. Good morning. If everyone could please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. If the clerk could please call the roll to establish a quorum.
Carr. Daniels.
Here.
Frost.
Here.
Gaylord. Guerra.
Here.
Hanson.
Here.
Harris.
Here.
Kennedy. Lampson.
Here.
Lee.
Here.
Natoli.
Here.
Peters. Cerna. Terry. We have a quorum.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. If the clerk could also please read the announcements for those listening online or watching online.
This meeting of the Sacramento Metropolitan Air Quality Management District is cablecast live without interruption on Metro Cable 14, the local government affairs channel on Comcast Consolidated Communications and AT&T U-verse cable systems. This meeting is being closed captioned and will be webcast at www.sacmetrocable.tv. Today's meeting will be repeated on Saturday, January 25th and Sunday, January 26th at 2 p.m. on Channel 14. Members of the audience wishing to address the board should fill out a speaker form located at the back of the table of the chambers and give it to the clerk. Please speak into the microphone when addressing the board and state your name for the record. Also, at this time, please silence your cell phone until the conclusion of today's meeting.
Thank you very much. A couple things here real quick for the members of the board. Items 8 and closed session require a quorum for us. We're going to move expeditiously through our agenda, both the Air Pollution Control Officer report and consent calendar, so that we can maintain a quorum for those two action items. Madam Clerk, is the next item on the agenda?
Next item on the agenda is the Air Pollution Control Officer's report, and I have Alberto Ayala here to discuss the California Air Pollution Control Officers Association update and National Association of Clean Air Agencies update.
Good morning, and let me start off by saying Happy New Year, Board. This is first meeting of 2020. Good to see you all here. If I may, Mr. Chair, I'm going to start with my item B, simply because the first item is related to the discussion calendar that you're going to be hearing soon. But what I wanted to report to you related to NACA, the National Association of Clean Air Agencies. Obviously, this is a key association we are members of. It provides a very, very important linkage to what is happening across the nation when it comes to the fight for clean air. We sit on the board / direct one of the committees. Specifically, I'm the co-chair for the Climate Change Committee at NACA. But the reason I wanted to bring this update to you is because at the next board meeting happening next week, NACA is going to be considering taking legal action against the federal government. There's going to be a discussion related to what is known as Union of Concerned Scientists versus NHTSA. This is essentially the same action that we already took against the federal government rolling back the emission standards for vehicles. So I wanted you to be aware of that. At the latest count, there's probably close to 25 states, about a dozen NGOs, City of LA, San Francisco, the County of San Francisco, a number of organizations, and obviously 3 air districts, ourselves, the Bay Area Air Quality Management District, and South Coast, that have joined as petitioners on behalf of the Union of Concerned Scientists to preserve the current emission standards and not roll back the limits that will lead to more polluting cars. So just wanted you to be aware of that. And now let me go to item A, which is my report on another very important association that we are part of. The California Air Pollution Control Officers Association, or CAPCOA. As one of the 5 large air districts, we sit on the board of CAPCOA. And what I want to share with you from that group, other than to acknowledge the fact that this is a critically important association for us, is the fact that this year the priority for the association is going to be to work in support of AB 617, the community air protection, that is our discussion item today. And very specifically, we're still fighting for funding from the state to implement the program. This is a critically important program. Unfortunately, we have seen a budget proposed from the governor that just came out this month that cuts in half the money for implementation of AB 617. The money in the program for incentives is also significantly reduced. And the reason this is relevant is because obviously we're going to be coming to a few of you so you can help us go to the Capitol and advocate, not for us, but really the communities. Because as you are going to hear in a minute, AB 617 is like ringing a bell. Once you do it, you can't undo it. And what we have done is work in our communities and really begin to change the paradigm so that we can get to a process of engagement that is inclusive and meaningful for the community so that we can provide some air pollution opportunities, air pollution reduction opportunities for the community. The item today is meant to give you a sense of just how expansive the effort is, how important it is, not only for us as an air agency and the role that we play in the state process for AB 617, but most importantly, what I want you to take away from it is really to hear from our community representatives that have gotten to a point of working with the air district. And we're not the only ones, as you may recall. There's other air districts doing AB 617 implementation. But for us, this is really a turning of the page in terms of air quality management. And that's really meant, that's really the meaning of the item, the discussion item today. So with that, I'll conclude my APCO report, unless you have any questions.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ayala. I do want to thank you, and correct me if I'm wrong, but our lobbying and advocacy team is already working with the state partners to highlight and address this shortfall in the state budget that's affecting not only our air district, but other air districts.
That is correct. Budget committee hearings are already taking place yesterday and today, and we're fortunate that we have our legislative advocate working for us. We will be doing the same, and obviously we're joining other air districts that are doing the same. But most importantly, we need not just the air agencies, we need the community voices there, we need the business community voices there, because if there's one thing that we've all agreed to, is this program really is mutually beneficial.
Okay. Thank you, and I'm glad we're getting an early jump on that process. Since that concludes our air pollution control officer's report, if there are no questions on the consent calendar, I'll ask a motion to move the consent calendar.
Move approval.
It's been properly moved and seconded by Board Member Frost and seconded by Board Member Harris. Any further discussion? Madam Clerk, anyone signed up to speak on the consent calendar?
No.
Seeing none, all those in favor, please. Aye. All those opposed? Very good, measure passes. Madam Clerk, can we proceed to the next item?
The next item is the discussion calendar. Item number 7, Assembly Bill 617, Community Air Protection Status Update. And I have Mark Lautzenheiser, who's going to begin the presentation.
Good morning, members of the board. I am Mark Lautzenheiser, Division Manager over Program Coordination Division here at the district. And it's been about a year since we last spoke to you in a broad presentation regarding 617. So we wanted to take the opportunity, as Dr. Ayala already mentioned, to give you an idea of just both where we're at, both in our South Sacramento, Florida community, but there's a lot of other broader efforts under 617 as well that impact all of Sacramento, both in terms of grant opportunities, community opportunities, and just as we're moving forward. So just very quickly at that high level again, historically the focus has been on regional air quality. AB 617 changes that or adds to that paradigm, if you will, and starts looking on a community level focus. Not just are we meeting our attainment on the regional level, but are we going ahead and making sure that we're not leaving any communities behind? And that is the key part of that, is this is a community-led focus. And with the opportunity to bring state and local funding into these communities to reduce the localized emissions and basically the other impacts, whether they be toxic emissions and other community concerns as it relates to air pollution. So there are a number of different key components. We sort of have them grouped up here very briefly, high level for you. That's the community air monitoring. It's about looking at enhanced emissions reporting so that the community actually knows what's being emitted in and around their neighborhoods. It's about the incentive funding opportunities. At some point, should there be perceived that there is an added problem in a given community, it's about a community emission reduction program and actually how to reduce those risks and the burden on our most impacted communities. It's about bringing in community air grants. It also is about making sure that at a statewide level, we're updating both the best available control technology and the best available retrofit control technology. That's that backed and barked terms that we like to sometimes talk about. And it did also increase the penalty provisions because that had not been updated in a number of years when the legislation was first passed. So 617 really is about a collaborative process. In fact, there weren't really enough arrows in PowerPoint to go ahead and really reflect all the different things going on, but it really is about working between the State Air Resources Board, the local districts, absolutely our community partners, and CAPCOA, and just making sure that everyone's talking and listening really to each other. So it really is intended to be a very collaborative process. No one group is leading or directing this. If anything, the direction is really coming from the communities. So we know what are their concerns, what are the problems that they perceive. We know the high level, we know the science behind it, but they're coming in saying, this is what I'm concerned about in my neighborhood. That's what we want to be looking and listening to, and then finding out, is there or is there not a problem with that, with the ultimate goal of protecting our communities. So again, just from a quick recap, as you may recall, now over a year ago, so about a year and a half ago, the district did propose up to 10 different communities within Sacramento. These are, as I like to say when I go to other areas and people say, why isn't my community already listed here? It's not that we don't see that much, if not all, of Sacramento is in need of these efforts. It's just that we are competing on a statewide basis. In the first year, they only selected 10. In the second year, they've only added 3 more communities statewide. So we need to try and focus on those communities that are the most impacted here in Sacramento, which are the first 10 that we had proposed a year ago. We did have one community selected, the South Sacramento Florin community, which is represented at the very bottom of the map, C, and then you can see the expanded and final boundaries that the community helped us develop. So what are some of the different accomplishments that we've had now? Because we have had our community selected for 1 year. We have had a very engaged process with our community. We developed a steering committee comprised of members of our community down there in the South Sacramento Florin area. It's both community residents, business representatives, and other interested groups from that area. We've had over 13 meetings at this point. The next one is next week. And by the way, the board is always welcome to join us at any of those meetings. These are open to the public. In terms of where we're at on the community air monitoring, we're currently well involved in terms of what we call phase 1 of the monitoring in that community, which will be followed by 2 additional phases. The smaller map that you see off to the right there, all those green dots represent low-cost sensors that have already been deployed in this community to help give them a better sense in real time of both particulate matter and ozone emissions going on. This is going to be followed by what we're in the process of doing, what we call phase 2, which is going to be a little bit more detailed air monitoring, including actually looking at very specific pollution in question by the community. They're very concerned about things such as what's the impact of some of the coating operations, the auto body shops in the neighborhood. And so some of the monitoring we're going to be able to do in the phase 2 is going to hopefully answer some of those questions for the community. But in addition to that, one of the big opportunities within 617 is, in addition to looking at and figure out what are the concerns and what are the problems at that local community level, is bringing in incentive dollars to actually then clean up and reduce pollution in these communities. And so this is both an opportunity for our traditional mobile source projects, but some of this new funding also has the opportunity to be used for stationary projects. And our agency, with feedback from the community, is actively involved with the state to try and expand those guidelines so that we can get in and do a lot of good projects that are of interest to the community. Some of the things that we've also already done this year is we have already adopted the schedule for going back through those backed and barked rule requirements that I mentioned a little bit a moment ago. Previously in September, yourselves already did, as our board, did already approve the update to our mutual settlement program guidelines to address the penalty provisions. And we are in the process of doing the enhanced emissions reporting that's going to be going on for the new the state's criteria toxics reporting regulation, or CTR. This one is probably going to be of very particular interest, not only to the community in terms of getting that information, but to the businesses throughout Sacramento. Where the state is going with this particular regulation does add a potentially significant level of reporting requirements that have not always been seen by a lot of even our smaller sources. So this is something that both my team and Amy Roberts, the division manager for Station Resource Division, have been working very closely together and working to make sure that our businesses and sources are aware of this, and also working with the state to try and make this hopefully as small of a burden as possible while still getting the information that is necessary for that. But you will probably be hearing a great deal more about that as we move forward as well. Real quickly, just even before I go into the expand, though, some of the things we've learned also in this first year is just the growing pains. There has been a big learning curve for the district on this. This is a new paradigm shift. It is about looking at it a little bit differently. We have also realized, and this is something yourselves as electeds probably already have a very good idea on, but just in order to have this meaningful community engagement, it is requiring a significantly higher level of time, energy, and resources than even we had anticipated. So going back to Dr. Ayala's comments at the very beginning in terms of the state talking about cutting funding from this in terms of the governor's budget, if anything, the district's view that they need to go completely the other direction and to provide additional resources to make sure that we're actually bringing and meeting the promise of 617 to our communities. And it is also that effort to get even a broader community engagement beyond just even where we're already working in South Sacramento, Florida, but it's in all the areas of Sacramento County because we are all impacted by it. And although we're focusing on those most significantly impacted and that have been disadvantaged historically the most, the benefits that this program are going to bring really will benefit all of Sacramento County, not just those individual communities, because as we learn and grow in terms of what are these local impacts, we can then take that learned knowledge and utilize it throughout the county as well.
We have a question here for Board Member Natoli.
Certainly.
Yeah. Mark, just a quick follow-on to the point about what's been proposed in the governor's budget. So to your and Dr. Ayala's comments, what's the rationale? Obviously, there are always, demands on the resources, but, in light of where the state has given direction on any number of things that relate to quality of life, and to, now we're deep into this, certainly this district, and I'm sure others in the state as well. What's the rationale? Obviously, a long way to go before any budget's approved or not, so we have work to do, as it was stated. I'm just curious as to if people were actually doing what was given the charge to do, and then, and yet the money is going to be halved. And so I guess I'm kind of curious about.
Director Natoli, I'd be happy to take that question since I've probably been in the thick of the discussions.
I imagine you have.
And I'm going to try to be very tactful and polite here because I don't want to get in trouble. This has been recorded. But in all honesty, it's a question mark for us in terms of how the current administration and the current governor, the importance that they give to AB 617. AB 617 was enacted in 2017. So this is essentially a legislative action that was remaining from the previous administration. And one of the questions we want to ask is precisely what you're asking is, this is not consistent with what we were anticipating given the massive effort that the state put behind to roll out AB 617. I mean, this really was a promise to communities to say, we're going to extend cap and trade, we're going to use the resources, and to those that need it the most, we are going to prioritize using those incentives to mitigate remaining pollution burdens. That made a lot of sense, and a lot of communities throughout the state embrace that opportunity, that promise. And here we are with a new administration that we're asking ourselves, is air quality a top priority? Is climate change mitigation a top priority at the community level? So, work in progress. Stay tuned.
Okay, good. Thanks. I appreciate it. Thanks.
Did that answer your question,
Yeah,
Board
it
Member?
did.
Thank you very much. We'll continue the presentation. Thank you.
No problem. We're always happy to take especially good questions on things like the funding and resources, because that is very much, I think, at the forefront of our mind, and I think even the community's mind, as they're hearing about this as well, because they do want to make sure that we do fulfill on the promise of 617. So where we're going to be going, though, in 2020 is definitely continuing our community engagement in the South Sacramento, Florida community. Definitely working on the monitoring them that information so that if they do decide that they feel they're ready at the end of this next year to go to a community emission reduction program or CERP, that we will be ready. It is about broadening our community engagement throughout the region. And this really touches upon how what Alberto was even mentioning a moment ago. It's about you cannot unring that bell. The news is out there, the communities are interested, they're engaged, they want to see this be successful. And so it is making sure that we have those resources And it will be about capacity building this next year so that we are ready to add additional communities in the future as resources become available from the state. And then, as we already mentioned, another big element that's going to be going on this next year is just being prepared for the CTR and that regulation that's going to be coming down from the state. And it's already been asked even as a question, but it is advocating for those state resources to make sure we can actually move forward. With that, though, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to a number of our various community partners that are involved in all of our 617 efforts. Just at a high level real quick, and I will give all their names real quick, but then I'll introduce them as each come up. But we're first going to hear from Trish Johnson from the California Air Resources Board, who's going to give you just a very high-level perspective of some of the state efforts as it relates to 617. That will be followed by Bill Knowlton and Patricia Shelby, who are our committee chairs for the South Sacramento Flooring Community. They will be followed by Simeon Grant with Green Tech, talking about some of the community-based organization engagement and opportunities. Jennifer Venema from the City of Sacramento will speak in terms of how we are trying to tie these efforts both with the City of Sacramento, and then we're also going to be expanding this to the other cities and the county as a whole as we move forward. And followed by most likely Adrian Wren, but Meg Arnold and Adrian Wren, Valley Vision, talking about some of the opportunities that they see and a recent community grant that was received by them to expand some of these efforts in areas beyond just the South Sacramento, Florida area. So with that, I'd like to invite Trish Johnson to the podium to go ahead and speak for a few minutes.
Great, thank you. And as our presenters are ready to speak, I think this is a good example of how we can early on get ahead of what I would say is the gap in between local and state to try to better inform the process so that we can acknowledge what it really takes to execute the programs of air quality, not just for residents, but the impact that it does to our industry that are sometimes our sources here. So with that, thank you. Good morning, Ms. Johnson.
Good morning. My name is Trish Johnson, and I work for CARB's Executive Office for Veronica Eady. She is our Assistant Executive Officer for Environmental Justice. She would be here herself today if she wasn't at CARB's monthly board meeting this very moment. I've worked at the Air Resources Board for nearly 2 decades on a variety of programs, and both Veronica and I have been involved with the Assembly Bill 617, or Community Air Protection Program, since it was first signed in 2017. In the first year of local implementation of the program, 10 communities were selected to serve as models for other communities with similar air pollution challenges, so that what we learn in the initial 10 communities can be applied to benefit other communities. The South Sacramento Flooring Community was selected as one in the first year for the development of a community air monitoring plan. The primary goals of these plans include providing air quality information that is accessible to the community and the public, utilizing a variety of air monitoring technologies that are available to collect new data for analyzing the sources of pollution impacting the community, and using the data generated to inform the development of emission reduction strategies. Both CARB and the air districts learned a lot during the first year of the program. We have committed to make adjustments and define best practices based on lessons learned. These adjustments will continue to strengthen the program and make sure community priorities are at the forefront of the process. For example, the use of a facilitator at steering committee meetings can provide a number of benefits to keeping the meeting on point, make sure all voices are heard, and provide ways to build consensus. To support AB 617 strategies statewide, the California legislature has appropriated nearly $750 million in community air protection funds that focus on the accelerated adoption of cleaner technology for mobile and stationary sources. These funds have been distributed to air districts across the state and are funding projects such as zero-emission school buses, clean technology infrastructure, and engine replacement and repower in marine vessels, locomotives, heavy-duty vehicles, and off-road equipment used in construction and agriculture. We're also developing new tools that increase data and information accessibility for the public, such as the Air Quality Data Viewer, or AQView for short, and the Technology Clearinghouse. AQView will focus on displaying local air quality data collected in AB 617 communities and will be a single central hub for viewing current air quality data throughout the state. Another opportunity is the Community Air Grant Program, which is supporting communities across the state. Just last month, we awarded the second round of grants to community-based organizations around the state, including in Sacramento to Valley Vision, for a project named Sacramento Neighborhoods Activating on Air Quality, which will engage residents in Norwood, Old North Sacramento, and Oak Park through education and workshops on AB 617 and support community-led air monitoring efforts. This concludes my brief overview of statewide perspectives and opportunities. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. We next have Bill Knowlton and Patricia Shelby, our chairs for the South Sacramento Floor and Community.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you very much. I am Patricia Shelby. This is Bill Knowlton. We are co-chairs. I'll let Bill start and I'll wrap up.
All right. Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you for having us. You know, I think part of our conversation is why we're here, why we are a part of this committee. I am the executive director of the Mac Road Partnership. Many of you know it is a PBID in the South Sacramento area. We have about 300 plus properties. And we also have, which is a little unique to PBIDs, we also have a large residential community. We have 7 large apartment complexes, and we have thousands upon thousands of children who not only live in that area, but frequent our little community center right there on Center Parkway and Mac Road. So really, for us, this is about building healthy communities. We talk about this all the time. That, at the end of the day, is what we're looking to accomplish. And so as we look at building a healthy community, we have that interaction of business and residents. The better the residents do, the better the businesses do, and vice versa. And so for that reason, we are absolutely engaged and committed to this process. We really look at inclusive economic development being a big piece of this. You know, as a PBID, we want to attract good businesses, good operators, and people that are community oriented. And so really this process has, and I think I can speak for Pat as well, has really educated us on the disparities in the communities in Sacramento. You know, we think of, at least I did, if you look at the Sacramento region, you think of pollution as a regional issue, which it is. But really you have those pockets of where it's worse. And as luck would have it, underserved communities just seem to be in those spots. And so really looking at this holistically and saying, how do we affect change? And I think for us, learning where we are, what is the baseline? What are the particulates in our area? And it was funny, we had one of our first meetings at the Mac Road Partnership offices, and we looked at a map. The very worst air pollution in that whole map was my office. And so I said, I couldn't believe this. How is it different here than it is 10 miles away? But it is. And so for us, this education piece has been invaluable. Looking at businesses to promote a really healthy business, as much as we can make a difference in our community is what we want to do. And we don't want to be punitive. We want to attract businesses. We don't want to have businesses stand back. So really, the more incentives that we can offer, the more carrot and less stick, I think is always a better way to go. And really looking again towards building that healthy community. Thank you.
Thank you. I joined this. I'm a resident. I've been around for a long time. A few of you know.
Here.
I started with dark hair. So, but I just a little bit of why I came to this. I had to take an early retirement. I had to take an early retirement because I almost died. I was having lung collapses, and my lung collapses were caused by air pollution and severe asthma. My doctor recommended that I move out of the area. He goes, "It's going to kill you. This is going to kill you." I'm a mother, 2 birth children, 3 adopted children, 9 grandchildren. 5 of my grandchildren live in this air. Before I die, I'm going to make a change. My mother died of lung cancer, didn't smoke a day in her life, lives in the middle of some of our most polluted air in this area. This is personal. I've learned so much in this last year. It really has been like drinking gallons of water all at once. But it's important. And I have to find a way of assimilating this information and activating my community, because my children and my grandchildren's health is at risk. So, I thank you for the opportunity to be able to serve. And I found out sitting in a meeting, because I decided to go to one of our other cohorts in Richmond last night and see how their steering committee was operating. And that's where I heard about the 50% cut. And I actually had an audible, what? Could you please repeat that? I can just express what folks said there and how I felt personally. We are ready to go to the battle lines. We need your help. We need your direction. We need your support. This is too critical to take a back seat. And I'm disappointed that this budget has been put forward, but I know we have the time, and we can draw the battle lines, and we can win. So I want to thank you again for this opportunity, and let's go forward.
Well, thank you very much, Patricia and Bill, and I think all of us would welcome the community advocacy to talk about this issue, and your courage as well, given your health concerns, and to fight for the community you grew up in and you live in. And Bill, I appreciate your commitment for, you've always been a supporter and a vocal advocate of our local businesses, particularly our small businesses, and identifying that air quality and what we're trying to do here has to work for all of us, and for the benefit of our economy as well.
I would be remiss, and Pat as well, if we didn't take one moment to thank staff. The staff has been absolutely wonderful to work with. They have been patient with us. They have been educators and teachers. And so for the staff that are here, thank you so much for your kindness and your patience. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Board Member Harris has a question here, so you may not be off the hook just yet.
Thank you, Chair. I grew up in LA, in the 60s, 50s, and 60s, and lived through smog alerts. When it was really dangerous for children to go outside and play in the schoolyard. Talking about this at the community level is so seminal for people to understand that they have the power to change their immediate environment is really how we move forward. Of course, we work with this on the macro level, but empowering communities to feel like they can change their way of life, that they can affect their community, the way their business owners think about, the environment. It's really powerful. So to hear your testimony, I can really relate to it. There were a lot of body shops where I lived. People were spray painting with no air scrubbing equipment at all. And, I'm kind of amazed I'm here to speak to you, but I'm happy that I am. But thank you for caring and taking care of your community.
Thank you.
Well said, Board Member Harris. Thank you very much.
And thank you. And before I do introduce the next one, I want to reiterate our thanks to Bill and Patricia. They've been fantastic and have, been very great to work with as well, and could not express our appreciation both to them and to the rest of the steering committee as well. They have definitely provided great insight, great questions, great clarity to us. So thank you as well. And with that, though, I would like to go ahead and welcome Simeon Grant with Green Tech.
Good morning. Good morning, Board Chair and members. Thank you for inviting me here to speak again. My name is Simeon Gant, and I am the Executive Director of Green Technical Education and Employment. And we are a nonprofit, community-based organization. And what we do is teach high school and college students about career opportunities in clean energy, energy efficiency, and sustainable living strategies. And while I certainly have stories about, the asthma that I had growing up, and the health effects that we're all concerned about. In the interest of time, I'm going to spare you of those because I just want to let you know that I've spent the last 11 years really trying to inform and educate, specifically our community. As a former journalist, first, I'm going to say I read a lot of news. I see a lot of news, and so I'm going to go to 3 different news issues that just have come up recently. This morning, it was noted on television news that Sacramento is the 3rd most diverse city in the nation. And then this past Sunday in Sacramento Bee, it said, "Can you commute without owning a car?" And then over the holidays, an article by the Sacramento Business Journal came out with my face on it, talking about the headline, "Nonprofit to develop zero-emission ride-sharing mobility hub in Del Paso Heights." Now, with the assistance of your wonderful staff, Jaime Lemus, Gino O'Neill, and Mike Nuremberg, and Alberto, Green Tech has been able to utilize the innovation that has coming to this state. And what normally happens is this innovation goes to affluent neighborhoods. We all love Folsom and Elk Grove. We absolutely love Roseville. But when this innovation usually comes, it rarely goes to Del Paso Heights, a community that is impoverished, beautiful people, fun-loving people, but they're struggling. They're struggling to get around. They're going to remain impoverished if they cannot get to work. And their health will remain at low levels if they can't get to the doctor's visits. So with the assistance of the Air Quality Management District and Green Tech, we are now going to be able to pick up people in zero-emission vehicles and take them to their doctor's visits. We're going to be able to take people and make sure that they can get to school and to work. This Green Tech Mobility Hub, which will be located, thanks to you, on the corner of Grand Avenue and May Street in Del Paso Heights, with 3 main objectives. 1, we'll have an electric vehicle shuttle that will be able to take the Green Tech students to our various work training locations. We have 2 sites in Oak Park, and we have several sites in Del Paso Heights. And one of our biggest challenges is getting these young people to those sites. They're eager to do the work and learn about what it takes to be green, what it takes to be environmental protection, career opportunities, but we just simply can't get them there. 2, we're going to do the rideshare program that the Air Quality Management District is already doing in different neighborhoods. We'll be able to do that here for those who are qualified in Del Paso Heights. And then the 3rd, somewhat innovative, where we're going to do a ride-hail service in hydrogen fuel cell vehicles, where we have planned trips to the grocery store. We'll pick up seniors and get them to their doctor's visits in zero-emission vehicles. And so I just want to say again, thank you to you. I know that if Mr. Guerra was still in the legislature, that cut wouldn't be there. We'd be fighting, and we're going to continue to fight. And so we will get that money back, and we'll continue. As long as people are sick from these health effects for these large emissions, the fight is always going to be there. They told me in 2008 when I started this that this was a trend that would go away. As long as people are sick, we will not go away. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gant, and also for encouraging young kids to look at a different profession. Your commitment has always been been there since you left the journalism world. More importantly, though, I think what you're doing is you're helping create a market demand that's going to help us accelerate a lot of these resources, and I think that is an important part. People are going to see it every day. Thank you.
So again, and thanking Simeon Ganton, I have to apologize since I believe I added an R to your last name when you first came up, so I want to apologize for that real quick. With that, though,
PR if it includes a grant. Though, right?
I guess that's where I was sort of stuck on, is I want to be able to give them more funding given all the great projects and work they're doing. And with that, though, I would like to go ahead and welcome Jennifer Venema from the Public Works Department of City of Sacramento to talk about some of the combined efforts and just their view on this as well.
Good morning, Chair Guerra and directors of the board. Thank you for having us. As noted, my name is Jennifer Venema. I'm the Sustainability Manager in the Public Works Department for the City of Sacramento. And we're here to really commend and applaud the Air District's leadership, the leadership of the board, the leadership of the staff, and really leadership in the community, and we're excited to be a part of this. Alberto used the words that this is a process of inclusive and meaningful engagement where we're seeking to drive change, and the city is your partner, and I'll identify specifically 4 areas where at the staff level we see those opportunities. So first off, really from our role at the city, it's leveraging the immense leadership and the vision of our city council in terms of electric vehicle adoption and electric vehicle technologies as a way to provide access and economic resources and to really bring improvements to all of those within the community. And we've been able to do that by working together. And we know that that's the real way to achieve change. So for example, it was through our work with staff from the Air District, staff from SMUD, and the Franklin Boulevard Neighborhood Development Corporation, by which we were able to engage RT to launch the first on-demand pilot in South Sacramento, actually serving this community, and to leverage Electrify America's investment so that they're getting 3 electric green power shuttles in Sacramento, first happening in this area. So that's a very exciting achievement and an example of the types of ways we can bring our leadership and resources and partnerships to scale. Second, from a very practical side, as a city, as the purveyor of land and with facilities and assets, we're supporting this program by providing access to land for air quality monitoring. We're currently in the process of executing licenses for 3 sites to host monitors that will provide data to support this effort. Third, the city is leading by example with our fleet and with our own facilities, providing EV charging and parking garages for the public and trying to advance zero-emission vehicles within the fleet. We currently have 62 zero-emission vehicles in our light-duty fleet. We're seeking to do more. 20 are already ordered, but just the way we're budgeting, the way that we're able to fund these replacements, it's hard to go beyond. So the incentives of the Air District are really important also in how we go further in our own city work. And lastly, we're also bringing the myriad of city projects to bear and to support this effort, from the city's inclusive economic work, the neighborhood action planning teams, to our Vision Zero planning and complete streets improvements. We are working closely with the district to leverage these investments where we can. We're very excited to support this program and look forward to ongoing work together.
Great, thank you very much, and I appreciate all the staff work. We hope this becomes easy, cookie cutter for other cities in the future. Thank you.
And thank you, Jennifer and City of Sacramento. And with that, I'd like to invite Adrian Wren of Valley Vision.
Good morning, Chair Guerra and members of the board. Thanks for having me. My name is Adrian Wren with Valley Vision. For 25 years, Valley Vision has been at the forefront of a lot of regional change initiatives in a variety of areas. And of course, we've worked with the Air District for many years. We absolutely love working with them, largely through management of the Cleaner Air Partnership. Cleaner Air Partnership has been around for 36 years. And it's supposed to be a broad-based coalition of business, health groups, and of course regulators who are all advancing clean air through advocacy and education. And actually in 2018, we worked closely with the Air District and many other partners to hold over 50 in-person meetings with legislators representing our region, legislators who were key sort of in the AB 617 and cap and trade process, and we also met with many CARB staffers as well. And later that year, we're designated the South Sacramento Florent community as one of the 10 original AB 617 communities in the state. But of course, I'm here to talk about the Community Air Grant that Valley Vision received in partnership with Walk Sacramento, Breathe California, and Green Tech. This grant, as Trish mentioned, is very exciting for us. It's $300,000 to do basically AB 617 groundwork. Again, these are not formal communities, but these are communities that the Sac Metro Air District has put forward as priority communities for potential AB 617 consideration. And those communities are, of course, the Norwood, Old North Sacramento community, as well as Oak Park. And so our activities are going to consist of actually facilitating community-led air monitoring. Our budget allows for 10 air monitors to be deployed in each of these two communities, which is very exciting. All of it includes sort of a public data portal and access to that data. We'll also be working with school districts, neighborhood associations, business groups, and of course, communities of color and disadvantaged communities throughout this process. So very, very excited and welcome to answer any questions about it. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
And so that concludes what we wanted to share at this point with the board on AB 617, and we will continue to keep you informed. And if at any point you have any questions or have any interest in attending any meetings, please just reach out and we'd be happy to go ahead and get you very specific information on that.
We do have a question here from Board Member Daniels.
Thank you. First off, thank you to the speakers that came up. They share very good stories, and they share the reason why the effort is there, and it only makes me think though they're preaching to the choir. You know, the presentations need to be down at the Capitol, and unfortunately, when my boss comes to me and he says, "Hey, sorry, I'm going to cut your budget in half," I don't get to say, "Well, boss, I already rang the bell. I already told them they're getting new uniforms, we're getting new cars, we're upgrading things, and bells and whistles." He says to me, "That's too bad. Maybe you shouldn't have rang the bell." And so I'm very concerned that we have been told that we're going to have a budget cut in half. I don't know if that's serious yet. You know, there are games that are always played with numbers, but I would hope that we're looking at what's going to happen if it's true, and not looking at, well, how do we go find more money necessarily? What are we going to have to do with that bell if we only get that much money? That's my concern. And hopefully we can find monies somewhere else to do something, but I would hope we're looking at, do we need to already start cutting back on something that we're doing or things that we're doing so that they're not wasted funds somewhere else if that budget problem happens. So I'm just asking that we be careful, that we maybe not continue in the exact direction that we're going or have been going with this at 100%, that we maybe look at, well, should we start a little different direction in case this happens, while it still allows us to move back in the direction that we did want to go in if that funding is actually returned. That's my concern.
Thank you, Board Member Daniels, and I do know that the budget sub-hearings will be scheduled in this early February, so I think we're going to get a better sense on, I think to your point, how real is that cut, but it's a good direction to staff to say, you know, be prepared for the worst, but let's start advocating and planning for the best. Good. Thank you very much. If that concludes this item, if there's no other questions, Madam Clerk, we'll move on to the next item.
Item number 8, the public hearing and Biolytics appeal to denial of protest of contract award.
Very good.
I do not have anybody signed up to speak.
There are no one signed up to speak. So then I'm going to ask our counsel, Kathy, since we don't have anyone from the appellant here, are we cleared to continue to move forward on this item? They have been notified, is that correct?
They have been notified. The board's cleared to take the motion as recommended by staff. Just a point of housekeeping before you do that. We did give an amended report to the board members. The only correction to that report is that it substituted protected information for confidential information. This action concerns a patent infringement claim. So it's irrelevant, really, whether confidential information is at issue. The only issue is whether or not we used any protected information in the patent, or in the RFP that was patented by the appellant. So far, they've submitted no information to us indicating that we did rely on protected information. They've just made the allegation.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, the appellant has chosen not to be here today. I do believe staff has done their due diligence to move forward on this item, and I'm comfortable supporting the staff recommendation. Is there a motion from the board to support the staff recommendation? It's been properly moved and seconded. Any questions from the board? If not, all those please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Thank you very much. Motion passes. Good. We are now at public comment. Madam Clerk, has anyone signed up to speak?
No.
There's no one. Board ideas, comments, or AB 1234 reports from the board? Nope. Any announcements? No announcements? Then at that point, then we will adjourn to closed session. We do have an action item that we need to take at closed session, so we'll ask the board to maintain for a quorum. With that, thank you, everyone. We're adjourning to closed session at 9:50.
Chair, but just before we close, Jamil Moynes, our administrator, has pointed out to me that technically this is a public hearing item, so you need to open and close the
Thank you very
public
much.
hearing.
I'm going to ask the makers of the motion, Board Member Terry, to open and close the public hearing. Or I'll make this motion. We'll open and close the public hearing, and we'll continue. We'll take these action items again. Is there a motion from the board? So moved. It's been moved and it's been properly seconded. All those again in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Measure passes now with the appropriate procedures. Thank you very much. And we are adjourning to closed session. Okay, we're coming back from closed session at 10:08 a.m. District Council?
Just reporting out that the board authorized the settlement terms for the district council in the case.
Very good. Okay, if there are, Madam Clerk, any other issues for the board?
There is not.
Okay, we're adjourned at 10:09.